Now to the other campaign, former President Donald Trump closing out his campaign with 3 stops in the battleground states, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and tonight he'll be in Michigan. ABC's Rachel Scott on the Trump campaign tonight.
Tonight in North Carolina, Donald Trump and the closing argument his team was hoping for in the final days of what he says will be his last campaign.
But I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? You know, I've asked that question so many times. I've never had one hand go up for the other. With your vote tomorrow, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country.
The former president calling this the end of one journey and the start of a new one.
This is really the end of a journey, but a new one will be starting, and that's the one we've wanted to partake in, which is basically to make America great again, and now we'll have a chance to do it after today.
In these crucial final hours, Trump also taking time to do an interview on the podcast of former New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick.
This is more exciting. I hate to say it, Coach, but this is more exciting than any football game.
The interview in keeping with Trump's strategy to win support among young men, a group that doesn't typically turn out in large numbers. He's featured wrestler Hulk Hogan at his campaign events and recently sat down for a lengthy interview on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Do you want to go with an 80-year-old president?
But one of Trump's most prominent female supporters, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, has warned he could risk alienating women.
This is not a time for them to get overly masculine with this bromance thing that they've got going. 53% of the electorate are women. Women will vote.
Haley spoke at the Republican National Convention, but she has not campaigned with Trump. Still, she published an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today telling voters to back him.
This will be the golden age of America.
Tonight at a rally in Pennsylvania, the crowd positioned behind the candidate, largely female, holding pink signs reading, "Women for Trump."
Rachel Scott also with us here at election headquarters tonight. Rachel, really the same question for you that I asked Mary. Does the Trump campaign have a real plan here tomorrow to add to the early vote? It's been impressive on the Republican side, but are these voters who would have come out on election day already? Do they plan to add to that tomorrow? What's their plan?
And they're happy with those early vote numbers, David. I'm told that the Trump campaign has 350 campaign offices across those critical 7 battleground states where this race will ultimately be decided. But they're also leaning on some outside political organizations, including one led by billionaire Elon Musk, to really lead some field operations on the ground, hoping that they can energize people who typically do not turn out to vote in person or early on election day, like young male voters, David.
It's all about ground game, which is cliche for a reason, right? Because that's what it comes down to in the end. Rachel Scott, our thanks to you. Now to the polling tonight. I mentioned we have a new ABC News poll. Let's get right over to our political director, Rick Klein, also here. Got his sleeves rolled up already. You're going to be here for days, Rick. But what does the last ABC News poll of the election cycle show?
A 3-point lead for Kamala Harris, 49-46, in what's been a stubbornly close race, start to finish. The gender gap, a big storyline going into tomorrow night. Donald Trump leading among men by 5 points, but Kamala Harris leading among women by 11 points. That gender gap actually widens when you zoom in on independent voters. Harris up 5 among independents overall. And just among independent women, it is Harris plus 18, David.
I know our team at 538 has done the averages in the battleground states. This is really something. We're really heading into tomorrow in a dead heat.
All within the margin of error. Right now, we have Kamala Harris leading by a single point in both Michigan and Wisconsin. We have Trump up very narrowly in Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. Pennsylvania, absolutely dead even. That is the most important and biggest battleground state. Both campaigns putting all their resources into that state.
90% of the time, the person who wins Pennsylvania wins the presidency. So, Rick, one last question for you about the Des Moines Register poll that came out this weekend. It was a shocker, even for the Harris campaign. It's a red state, and yet their last poll from a very respected political scientist shows that Kamala Harris has now taken the lead in Iowa.
Donald Trump won this state by 8 points, but Kamala Harris is up 3 in this poll right now, and particularly stark, the lead among women and older women in particular. Harris plus 20 among women 65 and older plus 35. Even among older men, it is Harris plus 2.
Rick Klein with us at the big board. Rick, thanks. Let's bring in John Carl, late reporting from the campaigns. John, that poll could be an outlier. Even the Harris campaign acknowledges that, but they say if they can see that in some of the other states, the swing states, the cross currents that we saw there, then perhaps it's an optimistic sign for them. But first question for you, what are you learning from the Trump campaign? How's Donald Trump feeling tonight?
Well, look, the Trump campaign just sent me reams of data saying that they are ahead in the early vote, that they're doing everything they need to do to win. But I have to tell you, talking to senior advisors, people that have been advising Trump for a long time, I am hearing newfound anxiety. They say he has been off message. One very close advisor and friend of Donald Trump's for a long time told me it's as if he is trying to lose. He is not closing it out on the message that you heard Rachel Scott say that his campaign wants him to close it out on.
But the Harris campaign has got to be feeling anxiety, too. You saw from Rick Klein, Pennsylvania is tied. It's a must-win for both campaigns.
Look, they've been feeling anxiety for a long time, but they also feel like this is closing in the right direction for them. They believe, David, that Madison Square rally 8 days ago was a turning point in this campaign.
All right, John Carl, Mary Bruce, Rachel Scott, Rick Klein, everybody's here. Everybody's ready to go.